Jonathan and James, who own Green Custard, they originally had their own startup. So we've kind of got a soft spot for working with startups on the back of their experiences. They've been through the pain of trying to get funding. They've been through the pain of being two people working to get a project done and working through the night. And we have that and live and breathe it with all of our customers. Gardin approached Green Custard throughout their original journey as a startup. They have a really good in-house engineering team, but they needed some specific help in some key areas, particularly around AWS and IoT. So they reached out to Green Custard as an AWS partner and an IoT specialist, not for the whole project, but for specific elements. They needed some expertise specifically in AWS IoT Greengrass when it came to device provisioning. So this is being able to have devices that are provisioned ready, they're sitting on a shelf, they can be sent out to a customer, and when they're plugged in, they can be provisioned and allocated to the right customer account. That whole process was previously manual, and we helped them to automate that.
So we're currently at our research facility based in Oxford, where we develop our sensors, we test the efficacy against different crops that we're testing, and we develop new features for our solutions. We first started working with Green Custard a couple of years ago, and we approached them because we needed some expertise in helping us to understand how we can make sure that we can deploy the sensors and connect them to our cloud platform in an autonomous fashion that can handle the high throughput and scale of deployment that we needed. So with their IoT expertise, and in particular their IoT expertise combined with their AWS skill sets and knowledge, it felt like a really good fit for us.
On the back of the device provisioning, Gardin asked us to undertake a sensor management API for them. So that was the design and development. So that is a secure API that allows them to be able to configure and manage the devices in the field using AWS. The devices communicate using MQTT, and it's communicated over HTTP API.
Its job is to measure the health of crops at a physiological or biological level in near real time. It does that through a process known as chlorophyll fluorescence, where we are measuring the amount of light that is returned by the crop when we expose it to a calibrated amount of light. By measuring how much light is returned as fluorescence, we're able to essentially understand how much of that is being used for heat and how much is being used for light, which is the bit that we're measuring. And that gives us as close to a real view of what the crop is feeling and how what stress it's under at that moment than any other solution available today. It's essentially the same as putting a stethoscope to the plant's heart and listening to see what's going on. So the sensor has been completely built in-house by Gardin. We started with Mark 1 here. Looks a bit like a fishbowl, but essentially everything that you see here is what's in our latest iteration. All we've done is to reduce the form factor, we've improved a few things, but fundamentally it's still as good today as it was 5 years ago. And this is our Mark 3 sensor, the latest version. Compared to the Mark 2, this has really been about making this production grade and ready to go. The great thing about the Gardin solution is we give growers flexibility in terms of how they want to use the product. Out of the box, the sensor will run completely autonomously. So if you're after a very kind of low interference, kind of low management solution, the system will essentially look after itself and give you the insights anyway. We do that by employing navigation algorithms and computer vision to sort of understand the scene. We will capture the measurements at the right time of day, depending on light conditions, to make sure that we're getting the best possible measurements. And then all of that is processed in the cloud to give the insights that we give to growers. However, more and more we're finding growers actually want to have more control. Because they are really quite invested in making sure that they are really understanding how they can get the best out of their crop. So a lot of growers now are wanting to integrate directly with Gardin, and we support a number of integrations, both bespoke, but also we integrate with a number of climate computer systems available today, which gives growers the ability to have much more control over kind of how the sensor operates, when, what they're interested in, and targeting that analysis and measurement much more. We worked closely with their solution architects and their engineers to develop a automatic fleet provisioning system, which essentially allows our support team or growers themselves to simply take the sensor, install it, plug it in, and from that the sensor will then automatically connect to our cloud platform. It will provision itself against the correct tenancy to make sure that we're keeping customer data safe and sandboxed. It will download any updates it needs, both at the start and into the future. And it provides us with all the engineering, telemetry and data that we would need to make sure that we can keep an eye on those sensors to make sure that they're always operating at top efficiency.
When we onboarded Gardin, we do a risk assessment, and we broke down all the risks that we found on the project. There's typically your normal project management risks around the iron triangle, but there were some specific risks on the project. One being their AWS environment. It wasn't clean, it was already established, albeit very good. It was already established, but it was new to Green Custard, and that posed a potential risk. Their customer engagement management, again, how they deal with their customers, how they manage the system was new and it posed a risk. And then 3 was the variation within their devices and their software. There could have been alignment issues and that posed a risk as well. The way that we dealt with them was, first of all, communicating them with the client. So the client knew exactly what we thought the risks were and we discussed them through. In terms of mitigations, we communicated with the client where we felt that risk was increased. So for example, just before a release, everything was tested and we worked iteratively to do baby steps with user acceptance testing by the customer all the way to make sure that those risks did not become reality. When Gardin were ready to move to production, they asked Green Custard to complete an AWS well-architected review with IoT lens. This is quite a comprehensive review of their AWS environment and device against best practices. We found a number of optimizations that we passed on to Gardin, one of which was to audit and rotate credentials periodically, so that they are kept fresh continually. Another one was to make sure that devices were restricted to the topic they were meant to be communicating on, so that rogue devices couldn't accidentally speak on the wrong topics. And then the third one was optimizing by using AWS Device Defender. This automatically looks for risks and threats and can isolate devices automatically.
A lot of supermarkets, they classify quality as, for a tomato, is it red enough? Is it round enough? Does it have a good shape of stem? All of those things are great, but actually you could have a beautiful looking tomato that from a nutritional point of view is pretty rubbish. You use us because we're right back at the start of that process. We can fix that problem so you know you're going to get a nutritious crop because nature knows how to do that as long as it's been given the right conditions in which to do it.
Working with Gardin has been brilliant. It's been, from day one, they're a brilliant team and we've learned a lot. What they do is remarkable. I mean, I've learned so much. I didn't know that there was only so much light plants could absorb in 24 hours, so we've learned a lot. But it's also enabled us to engage with the sector as a whole, and we've now had engagements with customers, from customers looking to monitor insects in vineyards, to we've recently done a project with a customer that uses camera vision to monitor the health of their cattle.
It's been a real pleasure working with Green Custard up until this point, and we absolutely see that continuing well into the future. We have some projects coming up with Green Custard where we're going to be further optimising the onboarding process for our sensors to make that plug-and-play solution even more seamless for our growers and integrating that even further into our platform. We're also going to be utilising their experts to continue to give us well-architected framework reviews and expert guidance well into the future. And I would encourage anyone who needs IoT support with AWS to get in contact with Green Custard.